Master Uworld, kill it on step 1. So hope you guys subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. I'll be making more videos, and leave some comments if you have a subject you want me to make a video on. And like this video, give it a thumbs up if you're doing Uworld, and if you're excited to take step 1. Okay guys, so Uworld is so important for step 1. When I took step 1, I was like, wow, these questions are so similar to Uworld, and thank God I, did Uworld and studied well with it because I felt really prepared for step 1, and I think it was a great way to, learn information. So the key to Uworld is I recommend using it as a study source and not a way to test what you know. Because usually, you might use questions to check, what information you know and what information you still need to study more and work on. But so you also did that. Like, okay, I know this, I'm pretty good at this. But also what I did was I used UWorld as a study source. So I would study the questions, study the answer choices and explanations of the answers, and learn from the answer explanations. And I think that was so helpful. So UWorld was amazing, and I'm going to tell you about some things I did to study UWorld and master it and then kill step 1. So here you go. So this is how I would approach a UWorld question. So first I would read the last sentence of the question with the actual question part in it. So I would not just read the whole passage top to bottom and then answer the question. I would read the last sentence first and know what the question was going to ask me. So then this way I could read the whole passage and, try to pick out the important parts because I knew what I was going to be asked. So if I was going to be asked, the mechanism of action of a drug, I would just, read it really fast and look for what the drug is and try to answer the question from just knowing the drug. But if I knew the question was going to ask me what's the pathophysiology of the disease, I know I would have to read the passage and try to figure out what the disease is so I could figure out the pathophysiology of that disease. So if I just read the question, the whole passage, without even knowing what I was going to get asked, I wouldn't be able to focus on the important information, and then I might have to read it again and again and waste time. So reading the last sentence of the question with the question part in it was so important for me, and it helped me so much. So I'd really recommend doing that. Okay, so if I did not understand really, what to look for in the question from reading the last sentence with the question in it, like it was a broad question or, it's not very specific and it could be about anything. So this is how I would approach just reading the whole passage. So then I would have to read the whole passage very carefully and pay attention to more things. So I would start thinking about what is the system of this question. So the first thing I wanted to know is, okay, is this a renal question? Is this a GI question? Is this a respiratory question? Is this a microbiology question? So then when I figured that out, I would be able to, narrow the thinking down and concentrate on this system and this subject. So that was the first thing I did almost every single time. And then I could narrow it down, okay, so I'm reading the question, oh, now I know this is a renal question. So then I could pick out only the renal things or the things that I thought would be more important, relative to a renal question in the passage and just highlight the important things. Or if this was a GI question, I would highlight the only important things for GI. So if it said, oh, the patient had nausea and he also had developed a headache and was weak, I would not pay attention to that at all because if I thought this was a GI question, those wouldn't relate to GI at all. But if it said, oh, he had lower right quadrant pain, that's very important. Or he just finished antibiotics a week ago, very important. So I would highlight that. So you got to think about what's relative to this question and what's not important. So that's a way that I think worked really well for me, and I was able to do questions faster and be able to get the answer faster because it would narrow my thinking down. Okay, so these are some of the things that I would pay attention to in every single question, no matter what was asking, really. So if there were vital signs and if there were lab values, I would always, look at those for sure. So for the vital signs, if they were normal, I would completely ignore them and forgot I even read them. Because if they're normal, they didn't really relate to the question. But if there was something that was abnormal, like someone had a temperature or very low blood pressure, I would definitely highlight that and pay attention to that. And for lab values, I really recommend knowing the general normal lab values for everything so you don't have to spend time looking back and forth at the chart. And I found that just going through questions over and over again, I was able to know the normal lab values without even trying from checking so much. So maybe that can, help you. But if you need to look more, maybe spend some time studying that. So for the lab values, if it was normal, I would completely ignore it because it didn't relate to the question. But if something was abnormal, like very low or high, I would highlight that right away because that could relate to the question. So those are the two main things that I would highlight in every question. And then, of course, I would highlight things relative to that specific question. And then I would look at the answer choices and then try to pick the best answer. Okay, so here's how I would approach a Uworld question when I was trying to study from it. So I would do the question, and then if I got it right, I would go through all the answer choices. I wouldn't just say, okay, I got it right, and then move on. Even if I for sure was 100% oh, this is obviously the answer, I would still look at the answer explanations and see if there was something in it that I didn't know or could learn more from. So I would read the answer explanations and take notes into my lovely first aid. So that helped me a lot, and I would take notes into the section that the question was asking about. So, if it was a renal question in the renal section, where is appropriate. And then I would learn from the answer explanations. So the key thing I did was I would read the wrong answers and see in the answer explanation if it says, when this would be the right answer. So if there was a key word that if instead of this word in the question, this other word was used, and that would be the right answer, I would take notes about that and compare, two close answers to know if it's asked this way in a question, it's this, but if it's asked this way in a question, it's this. So that was really important, and I know I got questions right on step 1 because I did it like that. And I remember okay, this was the wrong answer, but now I know it because it's asking the question this way on the actual step 1. So that was really important. And if I didn't know the answer to a Uworld question or got it wrong, so first I would figure out why I got it wrong. So I would think about, okay, did I make a stupid mistake and I knew the answer? Or did I have no clue about this question at all? Did I not understand what the question was trying to ask of me? Did I guess wrong? Or did I just need to study more? So when I knew that, then I would know, okay, I got to study this more. Then I would go back to Doctors in Training, study my sources, and try to come back to this question later. So I would still read all the wrong answers and take notes into my first aid, watch some YouTube videos, read some books, and try to understand the subject as best as I could before I moved on to the next question, because I didn't want to leave a question that I didn't know and just move on to the next question. So that was really important for me, at least. So Uworld's really important, and it definitely helped me so much, and I recommend using it. And there's a lot of ways you could do Uworlds. You could use it as a study source. You could use it as a way to check your answers. You could not even do all of Uworld. Some people don't even do all Uworld. For me, it was very important that I did all of Uworld, the questions many times. I started very early. That's what I would recommend, 6 months before step 1, maybe. And it helped me a lot. So let me know if you have any questions. Leave some comments about more videos you want me to do. And if you have any questions about Uworld, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye!